I'm going to tell you a story. A story about these woods. A story that started over 100 years ago and ends right here. What's so special about this wooded area deep in New Jersey's Pine Barren region? This was once home to a motor speedway. But not just any speedway, the fastest speedway in America. The story of these hallowed grounds starts well before the first board was laid for what would later become the Atlantic City Speedway. The story starts in 1918, nearly a year after the United States had entered World War I. As America's war machine was in full swing, there was a continuing need for ammunition. To fulfill these needs, the US government selected certain sites dedicated to loading and storing shells with the powerful explosive called Amatol. One of these sites was this nearly 6,000-acre section of land in Mullica Township. Not only would the government need to create the shell loading plant itself, but also the community needed to house the workers tasked with producing the munitions. On March 4th, 1918, the Atlantic Loading Company began work on building the plant and community of Amytal. Just 5 months later, the first shell was loaded, and within 9 months, the heavily wooded area was converted into a thriving munitions plant featuring a nearby community capable of housing thousands of workers. The town itself was located almost 2 miles northeast of the plant to keep a safe distance should there be any explosive accidents. Complete with a bank, post office, school, and hospital, the community was built with the possibility to support up to 25,000 people. While the planned community were a shining example of early 20th century mobilization, the Great War would end in November of 1918, and by mid-1919, the need for Amatol's production diminished. While things grew dormant at Amatol for the first part of the 1920s, business started to pick up when a group of investors, including Charles Schwab of Bethlehem Steel, decided this plot of land would be the perfect location to build a wood oval auto track. As part of the American Automobile Association, the investors were guaranteed that no other track could be built within 250 miles of theirs. This track would eventually be known as the Atlantic City Speedway. Work on the track began in January of 1926, and amazingly the crew was able to lay the 1.5-mile track down in time for the May 1st opener. The track was said to consist of nearly 5 million feet of lumber. Citing differing accounts, it appears the grandstands could seat between 30 and 40,000 spectators. Coupled with a huge infield, it was said the speedway could accommodate as many as 250,000 fans. One journalist wrote at the time, "Out of the scrub pine woods near Hamilton, the great yellow ellipse of the world's largest and fastest board motor speedway now arises. A marvel of engineering speed and builder's skill. It's the Atlantic City Motor Speedway, the modern equivalent of the Roman Colosseum." The plan was to hold 3 races a year at the Speedway and feature the best drivers in the world. Leading the pack was legendary Italian racer Ralph De Palma, who would come out of his self-imposed wood track retirement for the event. The field would also feature 1925 Indianapolis 500 winner Peter DiPaolo and fellow American driver Dave Lewis, known for being the first to race a front-wheel drive car at Indy. Before the first race, cars were backed up as far as the eye could see. Featuring a total purse of $30,000 in prize money, the opening event drew 80,000 spectators. The crowd would see Californian driver Harry Hartz win the 300-mile race with a staggering average speed of 135 miles per hour. Hartz's high speed was aided by the track's ridiculously steep 45-degree banked turns. Several other speed records were broken in the process, as the race would be the second most attended event in the race world, behind only the Indianapolis 500 in 1926. The following year, the track would add a stock car race to the fold, and later motorcycles would compete as well. This wouldn't be enough to keep the track alive though, as attendance figures would continue to decline. Sadly, after just 3 years of racing, the Speedway was sold to a corporation that would turn the land into an airport. The wood from the track was sold off, and any remains would sit around until being burned off by the Hamilton Fire Department in 1933. So what led to the quick demise of the Great Speedway? Well, by 1929, the US was heading right into the teeth of the Great Depression. The late racing enthusiast Russ Dodge credits high ticket prices, dangerous track conditions, and the May race's calendar proximity to the more famous Indy 500 as contributing factors to the Speedway's demise. Today, urban explorers of all ages come to this area to see remnants of the old ammunitions plant and the legendary Speedway. The best way to check out what remains on the site is to park off the road near this trailhead corner of Moss Mill Road and what was once known as Amatol Drive. Next, make your way a short distance up the trail. Eventually, you'll run right into an intersection of what was once the front straightaway of the racetrack. Next, turn right and head down the straightaway of the track towards the first turn of the Speedway. Soon you'll run into no trespassing signs, so start to make your way north or to the left into the woods. After a minute or two, you'll come across this old trench left over from the ammunition plant. I'm not sure what its purpose was, but it may have had tracks or some other device inside it. If anyone knows, let me know in the comments section. One of the interesting things you'll see in this area is a lot of old broken up asphalt. I'm not sure if this is left from the munitions plant or the Speedway infield, but I'd like to think it's one of the two. If you continue to walk north and to the west a bit, you'll run into the best remains on the site. Judging by the thick concrete walls, these buildings were most likely used for storing the ammo after production before being shipped off. I'm guessing the remains here are similar to the structure shown in this old photo. After checking out the ruins, you can head north through the woods or back to the main trail you started on. This route will take you to the back stretch of the track. By following this spacious trail, you'll eventually head into turn 3 and 4 of the track before hitting the home stretch. Somewhere along here would be where the start-finish line was and the huge grandstand to the right. While there really isn't much left of the track besides the outline, there's still one structure that looks intact. The administration building that was used for the munitions plant and later the racetrack is still located on the next street over, South Whitehorse Pike. As for the community of Amytal, this wide clearing represents the entrance from the left to this town layout with the structure surrounding in the woods. You can even see the remnants of the layout in this photo from above. While it's been almost 100 years since these daredevils tore through the Pine Barrens, the footprint left behind is just another example of New Jersey's rich history. For me, this New Jersey story has even more significance coming from a family of racing fans. Growing up around New Jersey racetracks, it's hard to grasp the fact that the fastest speedway in the country was once in my home state and I had no idea. So hard to grasp, in fact, that if I didn't see the track outlined from above and the clear straightaways, I might not believe it at all. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Destination Anywhere. Before we go, I want to thank my friend Joe at 3 Wide Picture Vault and Jeff from WallyCampbell.com for providing the vintage pictures of the Speedway and other information used in this video. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe to the Mickey Shuffle on YouTube.